Okay, ready to dive into the world of big pharma.
Always.
Today we're looking at Eli Lilly and Pfizer.
Two giants in the industry.
They've been making headlines.
Yeah, huge ones.
With breakthroughs for COVID, diabetes, and obesity treatments.
Absolutely. They've really been leading the charge.
But their stock prices have been kind of a roller coaster.
It's true, yeah. They've taken a hit recently.
So we're going to figure out if this is just a temporary thing or a sign of trouble.
Right. Are these dips a blip or is something bigger going on?
What do you think? Just to start, have these companies had a big impact?
Oh, absolutely. Huge impact. I mean, you think about Pfizer with the COVID vaccine.
Right.
Paxlovid, too.
Yeah.
And then Eli Lilly just skyrocketed with those diabetes and obesity drugs.
Mounjaro, that's the one everyone's talking about.
Mounjaro, yeah.
And Zepbound.
Huge. And their stock, Eli Lilly's stock, I mean, think about this. It more than tripled in just the last 3 years.
Wow.
For this recent downturn.
Which is pretty dramatic. We said Lilly's stock is down almost 25% from its peak.
Yeah.
And Pfizer is down about 20%.
Yeah, it's been a rough few months for them, for sure.
So what happened? What are investors worried about?
Well, for Eli Lilly, a couple of things kind of hit them all at once.
Okay.
Their Q3 earnings didn't quite meet what Wall Street was expecting.
Oh, so they missed those estimates.
You missed the estimates, yeah. And that led them to lower their financial outlook for the whole year.
Okay.
And then they've got this lawsuit that they're dealing with.
Uh-oh.
With the U.S. Health Resources and Services Administration. It's all about reimbursements for the 340B drug pricing program.
The 340B, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, it's a program, basically, that helps ensure that vulnerable populations can get access to medications.
So this program, this 340D, it's really important, not just for the patients, but for Lilly's financials, too.
Absolutely. This lawsuit could have a big impact if it doesn't go their way.
Wow, okay. So that's Eli Lilly. And what about Pfizer? What's going on over there?
Well, they voluntarily pulled their sickle cell disease treatment off the market.
Really?
Yeah, Oxbrite, I think it was called. Safety concerns.
Oh, that's never good.
Not a good look, no. And then they had this trial, a phase 3 trial, for a combined COVID and flu vaccine that they were developing with BioNTech.
Okay.
And the results were pretty disappointing.
Oh, so that's two big setbacks for Pfizer.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy for them.
And it feels like both companies have been facing kind of a challenging political climate lately.
Definitely. There's been a lot of talk about obesity drugs and vaccines, and this new administration, they haven't been super supportive of those kinds of treatment.
It feels like it's adding to that uncertainty.
Oh, absolutely. The proposed head of the Department of Health and Human Services, they've been pretty critical. Creates a tough environment. But, both Eli Lilly and Pfizer, they've been around a long time.
They've seen it all, right?
They've navigated these kinds of regulatory shifts before. They know how to adapt.
Okay, so experience is on their side. But there's this big difference in how the market's valuing them.
Yeah.
Eli Lilly's trading at 32 times its forward earnings. Pfizer's at 8.3 times forward earnings.
That's a huge gap.
What's driving that? What are investors thinking?
Basically, it comes down to growth expectations. So a high price-to-earnings ratio, like Lilly has, that suggests investors are banking on them growing a lot in the future.
They're betting on them, basically.
Right. They see Mounjaro, Zepbound.
Yeah.
And they've got Kisunla, too, for Alzheimer's. They see those as potential blockbusters.
Yeah. Those are big markets they're targeting.
Huge markets.
And Pfizer's facing that patent cliff, right?
Right. They've got several of their top-selling drugs that are about to lose patent protection.
And that means more competition, right?
Yeah. Cheaper generics are going to come on the market.
And that hits their revenue.
Exactly. And that's weighing heavily on their valuation.
Makes sense. Investors are hesitant.
They are, even though Pfizer does have some new things in the pipeline that could potentially help offset those losses. But it's a wait-and-see situation.
So is it time to dump Pfizer and buy Eli Lilly?
Not fast.
Okay.
Remember, Lilly's got those short-term hurdles that we talked about. We need to dig into those.
Like what?
Well, their earnings guidance, the reason they lowered it wasn't because their core business was suddenly tanking.
Okay.
A big part of it was the cost of acquiring another company, Morsic Holding.
Oh, okay.
And then some temporary inventory adjustments for Mounjaro and Zepbound. Wholesalers were adjusting their stock.
So it wasn't because people weren't buying the drugs, it was just a supply chain issue.
Right, exactly. Not a fundamental problem with the business itself.
Okay, that's good news for Eli Lilly.
Yeah, potentially.
And what about Pfizer? Are they in trouble?
I wouldn't say trouble. Setbacks like the Oxbrite withdrawal, that's disappointing. But it happens in this industry.
It does, yeah.
And the combo vaccine, the one that didn't pan out, It's a setback, but it's not a fatal blow.
They've got other products, right?
Yeah, they have a huge portfolio.
And they're doing research all the time.
Oh, yeah, they've got a robust pipeline.
So maybe there's more to this story than just those headlines.
I think so. It's easy to get spooked by the headlines, but we need to look deeper.
We need to unpack these events.
Exactly. We need to figure out the long-term impact.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep digging.
Stay tuned.
Promise?
This is just the beginning.
All right, so we're back, and we're ready to get into the nitty-gritty of Eli Lilly and Pfizer. What's the word on the street? What are the experts saying about these two companies?
What's interesting, the analysts are a little bit divided, especially when it comes to Eli Lilly.
Okay.
Some of them see this recent stock dip as like a golden opportunity.
A buying opportunity, you mean?
Yeah, like a buy low situation. They're saying the lowered earnings guidance, it's just temporary.
Okay.
And they're pointing to the long-term prospects, which they think are still really strong.
That makes sense. I mean, Mounjaro and Zepbound, those are huge in the diabetes and obesity markets.
Huge, yeah. And then there's Kisunla for Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
That market has so much potential.
So much potential, yeah. So some analysts are saying, don't worry, they're going to be fine.
Right. But there's another group that's a little more cautious.
Oh, what are they worried about?
They're looking at that lawsuit with HRSA, the one over the 340B program.
Right.
They see that as a potential red flag. If Lilly loses that lawsuit, it could really hurt their bottom line.
So even with those blockbuster drugs, there's still this cloud of uncertainty hanging over them.
Yeah, for sure. And then when you look at Pfizer, the outlook seems even more, I'd say, pessimistic.
Really? More than Eli Lilly?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That patent cliff is a major concern for a lot of analysts.
Makes sense.
They're worried that the revenue hit from losing exclusivity on those key drugs is going to be substantial. And they're not sure if Pfizer's new products are going to be strong enough to make up for those losses.
Okay. But Pfizer has dealt with patent cliffs before, right? They've been around for a while.
They have, yeah. But I think what makes this time feel different to some analysts is the scale of the revenue that's potentially at stake.
Okay, so it's not just one drug. It's a whole bunch of their biggest moneymakers.
Exactly. And while they do have new therapies in development, it's a tough challenge to try to replicate the success of those blockbusters.
I can imagine. It's like trying to replace Michael Jordan. You can find talented players, but it's hard to find another MJ.
Exactly. So I think that's what's making some analysts nervous. They just aren't sure if Pfizer can pull it off this time.
So we have Eli Lilly dealing with these short-term headwinds and the legal uncertainty.
Right?
And we have Pfizer staring down this long-term revenue decline.
It's like they're two sides of the same coin.
Two very different challenges, for sure. And that makes it even tougher to decide, should you sell these stocks or should you hold on?
It really depends on your individual investment strategy. There's no easy answer. How much risk are you comfortable with?
Right. Do you believe in their ability to overcome these obstacles? All right, let's play devil's advocate for a minute. Let's say we're thinking about selling. What would be the strongest arguments for getting out of these stocks right now?
Okay, so if you're a very risk-averse investor, someone who prioritizes those short-term gains over the long-term potential, then selling Eli Lilly might make sense.
Okay, why?
Because that lawsuit, that's a big wild card. We just don't know how it's going to play out.
And if they lose?
If they lose, the stock could drop even further.
Ouch.
And even if they win, there's still the question of whether they can meet those revised earnings targets. If they miss again, it could shake investor confidence.
Yeah, that would be a bad sign.
It would.
Okay, so with Eli Lilly, it's all about whether they can regain that trust. What about Pfizer? What would make someone want to jump ship there?
I think the main argument for selling Pfizer right now would be if you believe that the patent cliff is going to hit them harder than they're anticipating, and that their new drug pipeline just isn't robust enough to compensate for those losses.
So you're basically betting that their best days are behind them.
Yeah, that's the bearish case for Pfizer.
Okay, we've laid out the case for selling. But what if we're feeling optimistic? What are the arguments for holding on or even buying more?
Well, I think the bullish case for Eli Lilly is all about believing that these recent stumbles are just temporary. If you think those blockbuster drugs are going to keep driving strong revenue growth and that the lawsuit will eventually be resolved in their favor, then this dip could be a great entry point.
You're buying low, hoping to sell high later on.
Exactly. And for Pfizer, I think the bullish case rests on their track record.
They've been through tough times before.
They have, yeah. They've faced patent expirations before. They know how to innovate. They know how to adapt.
And they're not just sitting around waiting for the patent cliff to hit. They're investing in R&D. They're forming partnerships. They're trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
It's not a doomsday scenario. It's a challenge they can overcome.
That's the optimistic view.
Yeah.
But, we've been talking a lot about company-specific stuff.
Yeah.
We should also think about the bigger picture. Are there any industry-wide trends that are affecting these stocks?
That's a great point. It's not just about Eli Lilly and Pfizer. It's about the whole pharmaceutical industry.
Right. And one trend that's impossible to ignore is the pressure on drug pricing. Everyone's demanding lower costs. Politicians, patients, everyone.
Yeah, it's a hot-button issue for sure.
It is. And it creates a lot of uncertainty for companies like Eli Lilly and Pfizer. They have to constantly justify their pricing strategies. They're facing more regulations and more negotiations. It's a tough environment.
So even if they solve their own individual challenges, they still have to deal with these larger industry headwinds.
Exactly. And that adds another layer of complexity to the investment decision.
This is a lot to take in. We've got company-specific issues, industry trends, a whole lot of uncertainty about the future. It's enough to make your head spin.
I know, right? But that's why we do these deep dives. We want to help you understand all the different factors that are at play so you can make more informed decisions.
Absolutely. It's not about giving easy answers. It's about giving you the tools to think critically and make the best choices for yourself.
And a big part of that is doing your own research. Don't just rely on what you hear on the news or what some analyst tells you.
Right. Dig deeper. Look at the data.
Exactly.
So we've explored the bull case and the bear case.
We've talked about industry trends.
We've highlighted the importance of doing your own research.
And now it's up to you to decide what you think.
What's your next move going to be? Buy, sell, or hold? That's the question you have to answer for yourself. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to emphasize one more thing.
You're going to remind everyone about due diligence, right?
Exactly. We can offer insights and analysis, but ultimately the decision is yours.
It's your money. It's your portfolio.
So take the information we've given you.
Dive into those financials.
Scrutinize those product pipelines.
And decide if these companies align with your goals.
It's all about making informed choices. And on that note, we'll wrap up this part of our deep dive. When we come back, we'll explore some of those less obvious trends that could be shaping the future of these companies. Welcome back to our deep dive on Eli Lilly and Pfizer. We've covered a lot of ground, but now it's time to step back and look at the bigger picture, those trends that could really shake things up for these companies in the long run.
I totally agree. We need to look beyond those immediate headlines and earnings reports. Think about the forces that are reshaping the whole healthcare landscape.
Exactly. It's like, those tectonic plates shifting deep underground.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see them, but they can reshape entire continents.
So what are some of those tectonic shifts that could reshape the future for companies like Lilly and Pfizer?
Well, one that's impossible to ignore is the rise of personalized medicine. I mean, we're moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare. It's all about tailoring treatments to individuals.
Personalized medicine, yeah, I've heard that term thrown around. But what does it actually mean for these companies, for Eli Lilly and Pfizer, I mean?
It's a real challenge to their traditional business model.
Yeah.
Think about it. If treatments become super specific to smaller groups of patients, it becomes way harder to develop those blockbuster drugs, those huge money makers.
So it's a threat to their profits.
It could be, yeah. But it's also a huge opportunity. The companies that can figure out how to leverage genetics, data, AI, all that stuff to develop those targeted therapies, those are the ones that are going to be leading the pack.
So it's a race to adapt, basically.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is that both Lilly and Pfizer are already making big moves in this space.
Really? Like what?
Well, take Eli Lilly, for instance. They've teamed up with a genomics company to develop personalized treatments for type 2 diabetes.
So using genetics to find the right treatment for the right patient.
Exactly. And Pfizer's investing heavily in AI and machine learning. They're trying to speed up the whole drug discovery process.
So they're using tech to get ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And it's not just about personalized medicine. There's this whole other trend that's gaining momentum, the shift towards preventative health and wellness.
Right, that idea that it's better to stay healthy in the first place than to treat a disease after you get it.
Exactly. People are being more proactive about their health. They're focused on lifestyle, nutrition, early detection, and they're looking for companies that can support them.
So it's not just about pills and treatments anymore. It's about a whole new way of thinking about health.
Totally. And that means companies like Lilly and Pfizer, they have to adapt. They can't just focus on treating sick people. They have to help people stay healthy.
So are they doing that? Are they adapting?
They are, yeah. They're both investing in things like nutritional supplements, wearable health trackers, digital health platforms, even telehealth.
So they're branching out, going beyond those traditional drugs.
Exactly. They're trying to position themselves for the future of healthcare.
It's amazing to see how this industry is changing. It really is.
It is, and it's fascinating to watch. I think for investors, the key is to pay attention to these bigger trends. Understand how they might affect the companies you're invested in.
It's not just about looking at the numbers. It's about understanding the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot in this deep dive. We've analyzed those financials, explored those challenges, looked at the potential for growth, and even peeked into the future of healthcare.
We've really gone deep.
We have. But now it's up to you, our listeners, to take this information and make your own decisions. Do your own research, think critically, and make those choices that align with your own goals.
And remember, stay curious.
That's right. Never stop learning. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Eli Lilly and Pfizer. We'll see you next time.